Welcoming you to the final ladies room for March 25th, of course, for this week. And it is also my pleasure to say good morning again, everyone. Always a pleasure having you here with us. And of course, like we told you today, we've got a very special guest from the Ministry of Health. So if you've got your questions, hey, feel free to hit me up. And of course, you can follow along on the live chat. All right. Just giving you guys a couple seconds to come on into the room quickly. And as soon as you do, we'll jump right on into it. And if you're listening on radio, good morning. Or of course, online, good morning to you as well. Always a pleasure having you guys with us. Marlene George, good morning. And remember to hit the share button as well, because we'd love to give folks an opportunity to be a part of this conversation, a very important conversation. And we know what times we're living in, COVID-19. And of course, it's all about getting vaccinated and stuff like that. So we want to make sure that you have the information, that you're equipped with the information. So whatever decision you choose to make, well, it's coming from an informed place. All right. So that's what we're all about this morning. So let me just jump right into it. And of course, welcome our guest to the show, Dr. Charles. Good morning. How are you?
Hi, good morning. I'm doing fine. And I'd like to welcome all the listeners, everybody tuned in to this session on COVID-19 vaccination and basically about the virus. Yeah, I hope after this session you are equipped with the information needed to make an informed decision about vaccination, right? And that is the purpose of this session, to equip you with the facts based on scientific evidence and to dispel most of the myths. You know, I do acknowledge since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic, there have been a lot of information circulated.
A lot.
Some of it misinformation. A lot of rumors about the virus itself, about the vaccine, and today we're here to dispel some of those.
Wonderful. Now, before we jump into it, and of course, getting the information out there, tell us a bit about your role at the Ministry of Health, and then we'll take it from there.
So currently at the Ministry of Health, since the COVID-19 response has started, I've been working along closely with the Chief Medical Officer, assisting with that COVID-19 response and some additional duties as well.
All right, fantastic. So we're definitely coming from a place of information. Well, let's start with COVID. I mean, when we heard about it, we probably thought, you know what, that's China's problem. That's that part of the world's problem. You know, we're not going to be affected in any way. So we just went about our business as usual. And now approximately 1 year, it is a global pandemic. We've seen so many changes. We've heard of so many deaths. And even to this day, yesterday I heard of new cases in St. Vincent, heard of Jamaica again under lockdown. And there's a lot that's happening, you know, close to home, the Caribbean, you know, practically everywhere. Has been affected with COVID-19. And there has been so many theories, you know, and like I said to someone a couple of weeks ago, out of this, I've seen so many doctors, I've seen so many people without, you know, having the official titles, you know, speaking about COVID and some of the things that we ought to do or ought not to do. And there's a whole lot of theories, you know, and to say the least, folks have been distracted, we've been confused, frustrated, because you're hearing this, you're hearing that and the other, especially in this period, you know, of the vaccination rollout. So speak to us on that. Where are we now?
Currently, I would say we're in a much better place from where we started. Approximately 1 year ago, as you rightfully say, the World Health Organization has declared the coronavirus disease as a pandemic. By that, it affects the entire world. Right now, initially, there were very limited information. As time progressed, we have gained a lot of knowledge about the virus, how it acts. And so as time progressed, we've also been able to develop a safe and effective vaccine. And where we are now, all countries are making COVID-19 vaccination a priority. And why is this a priority? What we know about vaccination for sure is that it 100% protects you from severe illness. It 100% protects you from death. And it 100% protects you from hospitalization, right? This is what we know about the vaccine. And Grenada is no different, right? So far, we have administered almost 10,000 vaccines doses in Grenada. And there has been no reported severe side effects. Additionally, tens of thousands of vaccines have been administered throughout the region, and over 300 million have been administered worldwide, right? And as I always say, and I say to my friends, my colleagues, there is a race. There is a race against the virus and the vaccine. And we need to be informed, right? And be advised to take a safe and effective measure that works so we can stop the virus, right? We need vaccination to win that race. Because if it doesn't, the virus wins. And what happens? More deaths, more hospitalization, more persons coming down with severe illness. And we cannot afford for that to happen when we know that there is a safe and effective measure that can stop this pandemic.
Now, from the onset of COVID, we've heard so many different terms, and of course, the last couple months we've heard of a new variant. Speak to us on that. What is this variant that you're hearing so much of?
Right. Now, this is a very important one to discuss. Now, basically, a variant. What is a variant? Now, when a virus makes copies of itself, right? A virus in itself, it cannot survive by itself. It needs the human body, right? And it makes copies of itself. When it does that, right, it can develop newer tactics, right? Or new tactics to infect someone, right? When it develops those new tactics, we call those things variants, right? And this is just, in essence, what a variant is. It is just a mutation of that virus. And variants are important because as the virus continues to mutate or multiply, right, it increases the chances of more variants being developed, right? And it also reduces the chances of the vaccine effectiveness. So that is why it is very important for persons to get vaccinated, right? It is an important and it is an urgent call for vaccination. Because if you don't get vaccinated, if you don't stop the virus, if you don't stop the pandemic, what happens? It continues to mutate. It continues to make new variants. And I know that we've all heard about the UK variant, the South African variant, right? And based on studies conducted on the Astrazeneca vaccine, we know that it is effective against those variants. And this is very promising.
Now, and that's going to take us into the next question because, funny enough, someone here is just commenting on the live. With all due respect, I ain't trust that vaccine. And I'm hearing a whole lot of I don't trust. And when you ask, well, why don't you trust? You're not really getting, responses that make sense.
Yeah.
You just don't trust, not comfortable. And I'm like, okay, well, what about it makes you uncomfortable? And you hear, okay, well, the length of time they took to make it. 1, 2, I just don't trust. That seems to be the dominant factor. I don't trust. Now, speak to us about the vaccine, the Astrazeneca vaccine that a lot of folks have gotten so far in Grenada and in other parts of the world, because people seem to want to know what's exactly in it, what it's about, what does it do. How does it, fight against the virus? So, like I said, this morning is about education. All right. So, tell us a bit about that. What exactly is the AstraZeneca vaccine?
Now, the AstraZeneca vaccine, right? It was developed in coordination with Oxford University and a British-Swedish company called Astrazeneca. Now, this vaccine in particular, what it does, it uses another virus, right? That encodes part of the, I'm using some big terms, but I'm going to break it down, right? Encodes part of the surface protein on the coronavirus itself, right? Now, because of that, when your body gets the vaccine, what it does, it tells your body, okay, this looks like the virus. We need to fight it, right? And when that happens, your body will develop cells, right? Or fighter cells, as we call them, to fight against that virus. But these cells don't go away. They stay in your body, right? They have memory. They're what we call memory cells. So they stay in the body. So that in the event that you become exposed to the actual coronavirus, you're amped up. You're ready to fight it, right? And you can defend yourself, right? So in that case, persons, they may have the disease and they don't know because they're asymptomatic, right? And that is important. They don't develop severe illness. They don't go to the hospital because of COVID, right? They're not in a bed struggling to breathe. They don't need to be admitted to critical care. And most importantly, you don't die, right? So this is just, in essence, how the virus works and the main component of the AstraZeneca vaccine.
All right. So I hope we have a better understanding based on that. Somebody is. Let me just squeeze in a couple questions. Someone's asking. Good morning. It is widely reported that the vaccine don't prevent you from catching the virus. If that's the case, why should we take the vaccine?
No, I would say this. No, this is a very important question, right? It is a very pertinent question, and I'm happy you asked this question. Now, I want to ask this person, if you get COVID, do you know how your body would react? Do you know the outcome, right? Do you know what your outcome would be? We've seen throughout the region, right? Throughout the world, hospitals are filled. People are dying from COVID. People are required to go on ventilators, right? Their lungs are failing because of COVID. Do you know what your outcome will be? And we know with certainty that that vaccine 100% protects us from death. Now, if you have a safe and effective measure that protects you from dying from a rampant virus, why shouldn't you take it? I think this in itself is all the reason to get vaccinated. You have a safe and effective measure, which is vaccination, that protects you from severe illness, that protects you from going into the hospital. This in itself is enough reason to take the vaccine, right? And to address the other part of your question, that the vaccine does not prevent you from getting the virus. No, this is true because remember, when someone gets vaccinated, it takes time for your body to build protection. It can take 2 weeks, right? 2 weeks after your second dose for your body to build full protection. So during that time, you can get infected with the virus. But the good thing about it, what I have seen, there are promising studies that show, right? Even if you get infected, your chances of spreading it is significantly reduced, right? Your chances of bringing it home to your mother or your ill grandmother is significantly reduced, right? You don't want to be the reason, right, by not getting vaccinated, that one of your family members die because you brought the virus, you're strong, you're young, you're healthy, and they die and succumb to the virus. So I want you to reconsider that because based on what we know, and I will reiterate, the vaccine 100% protects you from death. It 100% protects you from severe illness and hospitalization. And that is enough for you to take that vaccine, right? And what we also know, it is safe and effective, right? And this is very, very important. The vaccine is safe and it is effective. And the vaccine is the simplest and quickest means to end this pandemic. Now, I don't know about the viewers. Aruna, I don't know about yourself, but quite frankly, right, I'm not sure if you guys realized, but this week marked a year since Grenada had its first case. And I am tired. Right?
Tired.
I am tired. Right?
Tired.
And now we have an answer. Right? We have an answer. Do you want to return to a sense of normalcy? Do you want us to lift the restrictions? Do you want to be able to go out and eat with your friends, or like we say, go to like a fete on our cruise?
Not having to
do you want to
stress
do
and worry
that?
about who's sitting next to me?
Exactly.
And not, But
we have to protect ourselves.
like we said, I think information and education is what is required because a lot of people are operating from a place of fear and not having the information, and of course, maybe having too much information and not from the right sources. So I believe this is extremely important, to have the correct information and then you decide. Like you said, it's not mandatory. You decide if you want to take it or not, but having the information on hand is important in making that decision, to be vaccinated. So that's why we're here this morning giving you the information. So you can't say, well, I didn't know, and this person say this and that person say that. And most of the times we're listening to people who are not qualified in any way, shape or form to, disseminate those sort of information. You copy and paste something and you think, okay, well, it's credible. And most of the times you have to really fact check and double check. Now, speaking of checking and what have you, again, this is another thing you hear people saying all the time when you ask, well, why aren't you taking the vaccine? They want information. How was it tested and, its development and stuff like that. So speak to us on that as well.
Right. No, this is a very valid concern. Now, all medications, all vaccines, before they can be approved to be administered to the general public, they must go through a very stringent and rigorous clinical trial or different phases. And this vaccine is no different. It went through all the clinical trials that prove that it is safe and effective, right? No step was left out or anything like that. And I would liken that. I know I had that concern in the beginning. And I think it's a very pertinent
shortcuts or something.
concern. Yeah, it is a very pertinent concern. I had that concern. Now, and I would liken it. Let's say, for instance, as a young person, I myself, you're ready to build a house, right? You're tired of renting. You decide, you know what, I'm going to build a house, right? You got a little raise at your work. Now, you decide I'm going to go to the bank to get a mortgage. You go to the bank say, no, I'm sorry, we cannot give you a mortgage. Now you at a place where you feel like you're set back, but you decide, I want to do this. I'm going to do this. Now you have a neighbor, he's a constructor. You decide you're going to call him, you're going to ask him to help you. You have a little 2 workmen, they come every weekend, they do something, right? Now you're using part of your salary you get every month to fund that building. Now that will take years, right? In my opinion, it might take over 5 years. But what we have to recognize about this particular vaccine, remember, COVID-19, right? That disease is a disease that affected the entire world, right? So from the beginning, the funding was there. Billions of dollars were invested into producing this vaccine. Scientists from all over the world came together, governments from all over the world. So there was incredible collaboration, right? And for that reason, the vaccine, the speed at which the vaccine was, it was faster. Yes, but it did not compromise the rigor that vaccine had to go through. The clinical trials, that was not compromised. The safety, ensuring that the vaccine is safe, that was not compromised, right? And I'll just take you to the other end. Let's say you went to the bank and you got that loan. You hire somebody, they come with a workman. You can get a house built in 4 to 6 months because you have the funding, you have the human resource, you have everything you need to build that house, right? And it's the same sort of concept with a vaccine, right? It's the same sort of concept, right? It went through all the rigorous steps needed.
Protocols. Alrighty. Side effects. Because you're also hearing about that as well.
Yeah.
And it's also coming from people who have not taken the vaccine yet.
Right.
But let's speak on the side effects. Because with everything else, you got to have the pros and cons. People have to come from a place of information.
Yes,
and not
absolutely.
just gloss everything over and make it seem like, all right, it's
Absolutely.
perfect.
Yeah. Now, side effects. Now, I would say with all medications you take, I mean, persons out there know the diabetics, the hypertensive, all medications have side effects, right? Vaccines have side effects. And the side effect is a good thing. It means that your body is building protection. It is not a bad thing to get side effects. I took the vaccine. Mm-hmm. I woke up, I forgot I took the vaccine. I was just feeling tired. And then a few hours later, I started to feel a bit feverish. I got some headache. But by the ending of the day, it was over, right? But side effects is not a good thing, right? In fact, me having side effects, I was happy because there's this other rumor going around that you're getting water. Now, I know for sure I didn't get water. I got a vaccine because I know my body built protection, right? And sometimes when your body built protection, you can get side effects, just as babies. They would advise you before you bring your baby to get vaccinated, you need to give the baby some Tylenol, right? Because of the side effects. They get irritable. This is not new, right? And side effects can happen. Now, with this particular vaccine, some of the most common side effects that persons can experience include headache, fever, feeling tired, a little pain in the arm where you got the injection.
I had all of the above.
Right? All of those things are some of the common side effects. Some persons even report they feel like they want to vomit, right? But these side effects are short-lived. All right? And it is a sign that your body is building protection against the virus.
It was
so it is a good
for
thing.
I think I was more feeling tired than a couple hours of during the morning headache and then fever and then some Tylenol worked, and then I think mostly everyone complained of feeling just sleepy. Yeah. And then we moved on.
Yeah.
Some of us, thank God, I didn't even remember I took the vaccine. 0 effects. So see again, different. Our bodies react differently to different things. So. Is it safe? Someone says that's all they want to know. That is their main concern. Is the Astrazeneca vaccine safe?
Right. And to that person, I will say that is a very important concern. Now, this vaccine, I can assure you that it is safe. This vaccine has went through rigorous clinical trials. It went through all the steps, right? And all the trials that it went through, it's been tested on tens of thousands of persons, right? Before it can be given to the general public. And all the trials concluded that the vaccine is safe and effective. As it relates to safetyness of the vaccine, that is not a concern for the scientists, the researchers. The vaccine is safe, right? And I can assure you of that.
Now, in terms of the vaccine, how exactly do vaccines work?
Right, so that's a good question, very important. Now, how vaccines work in general. Now, some vaccines, what they do, right? They basically contain a weakened form of the virus. Some vaccines, a killed form of the virus. In the instance of the this vaccine, it contains instructions to manufacture the spike protein on the virus. Now, basically, I know most of you all by now would have seen a picture of what the coronavirus looks like, right? It's a little circle that you see going around with different spikes on the surface. Now, this is how the virus attaches to your cells and get into your body and multiply and do the damage. So the vaccines now, what they basically do is contain instructions to produce that surface protein, right? So the vaccine does not contain the COVID virus, and that is very important. It doesn't contain the virus. Now, when this is given to you or injected into your upper arm, what happens is that your body sees that, and your body will defend it, right? It sees that, okay, this looks like the virus. We need to build protection against this. Your body will build protection. So the event that you get exposed to the actual virus, your body already has protection against it. It can fight it off from the jump, as we see, right? So you do not get sick or you do not get ill. But I just want to reiterate that point, that the vaccine cannot give you COVID, and the vaccine does not contain the coronavirus, right? This is very important.
Here I was given wrong information. Whole conversation on that. In terms of course, plus there's other things we need to do as well in terms of keeping healthy, building our immunity, making sure we eat right, exercise, and all of those things also contribute to it. Because a lot of folks have been saying, and I'm seeing someone in the live saying, well, how come folks in the Caribbean, Grenada, who had the virus, how come they recovered so quickly without succumbing to it, unlike parts of the US where people were just dying like every second.
Right. Now, I would say now our immune system is different, right? Our immune system reacts differently now. But if you can appreciate, right now in Grenada, we have been very fortunate, right, with all the control measures at the borders of entry and all of those things. I think the population has been protected from COVID. We haven't seen the real effects of COVID. We haven't seen how rampant COVID is, right? COVID is a deadly virus. And you're right. Now, what we also have to remember, right? Now, some persons, they had mild illness, right? They might get a little fever and that's it. Or they might just feel tired. Some people did not have any symptoms, but the population that was most affected in Grenada were the younger population. Now, younger persons in general, you have a stronger immune system. You fight off things stronger. As you get older, everything sort of degenerates, right? Everything gets a bit weaker, right? So younger persons without any comorbidities, right, was the ones that was mainly affected here, right? And for that reason, I think that is why most of the cases of COVID in Grenada were asymptomatic. Additionally, we do not have any of the variants in Grenada. Remember, those variants exist in other parts of the world and is responsible for a lot of the deaths and the hospitalization, because these variants, what we know about these variants is that they are more deadly. They are transmitted much easier, right? And we do not have those variants in Grenada. All coming back again to the very good control measures that was placed at the ports of entry and the great job, I would say, that was done by the Ministry of Health in protecting our population. But now we have a new measure to protect the population. We have vaccination, right? Which we know, again, is safe and effective. And I want to encourage everybody to get vaccinated. Protect yourself. Protect your loved ones, right? Protect the people around you. Protect your colleagues, right?
Someone here is asking, is that the only vaccine available to Grenadians presently? Why is that the only one when we have other options?
Now, at this time, the Astrazeneca vaccine is what we have available in Grenada. Remember, the Astrazeneca vaccine was approved by the World Health Organization and given emergency use, right? And so far, there have been 4 vaccines, right? The Pfizer, the Moderna, the Johnson & Johnson, right? This vaccine has also been approved and is safe and effective, and this is the one that we have here in Grenada. Remember, throughout the Caribbean, right, throughout the region, AstraZeneca is being used, right? Countries have gotten a supply of AstraZeneca vaccine from the manufacturers. Additionally, the COVAX facility, right? And this is a facility basically with a primary goal to bring vaccines to low-income countries, low, middle-income countries, right? This is the vaccine that is available as well through that facility. Remember, the vaccines is a golden commodity, right? It's a golden commodity. If you look at, for instance, in the US, right, it will be a long time before some of these vaccines are available to Grenada, right? Because they have to supply their country.
Have to take care of
right?
their
They
own
have
first.
to take care of their own. And in Grenada, we have Astrazeneca vaccine. We have a vaccine that is safe and effective. So let's take care of our own people because they are taking care of their people. We have to take care of our own.
Now, in terms of who is getting vaccinated, of course, in the same U.S., etc., 16 years, it's been permitted, but here we're people under the age of 18 are not permitted to be vaccinated. Like in some countries, 16 and above are being vaccinated. Is there a particular reason for this?
Remember, right now, different vaccines. Now, we are using the Astrazeneca vaccine, right? In the studies conducted, persons under the age of 18 was not in those trials, right? And for that reason, we are not vaccinating persons under the age of 18 because they were not included in the trials. We do not have enough data on persons under the age of 18, but there is promising news and information that trials are now being conducted using AstraZeneca in persons between the ages of 12 to 18. Right now, in other countries, they're using different vaccines, right? Different vaccines, different manufacturers. They would have conducted clinical trials on different groups in different countries, right? And that is how they gain their evidence. And based on the evidence that we have now, and based on the evidence from the clinical trials conducted on AstraZeneca, right, the use is permitted for persons 18 and over.
Alrighty. So I'm seeing a lot of questions in the chat, and of course I'm also looking at the time. So I'll take a few. But how long will the vaccine last? So that's another question I'm hearing lots of folks asking, because you get the first dose and then you have to take the second dose. So how long does that last?
Right. Now, what I would say right now, after the second dose of the vaccine, right, 2 weeks after, you have full protection. As to how long the vaccine lasts, we do not know as yet. Remember, vaccination has only been started a few months. Those persons that was vaccinated in the clinical trials that was conducted, they have to be followed over a period of a few years to make that determination. So studies are still ongoing as to how long the vaccine would last, right? That we do not have enough information on as yet.
Yeah, because someone is asking if they have to be vaccinated annually.
Right? I mean, this may be a possibility. Take, for instance, the flu shot, right? You take a flu shot every year. This is a possibility, but scientists, they are still doing ongoing investigations, right, on persons to determine how long protection would last after vaccination.
Somebody is asking, is vaccine safe for pregnant women? And if I took my first dose of vaccine not knowing I was pregnant, what should I do? Should I take the second dose or no?
Right. Now, that is a very important question. And being a woman myself, that is a question, I thought about. Now, vaccines. Now, during the clinical trials, right, for the vaccines, pregnant women were not part of the trials. But what we do know is that some women during the trial got pregnant anyway, and they got a vaccine, and there haven't been any reported adverse effects. Now, what we know about COVID-19, right, that disease, what we know is that pregnant women, if they get COVID-19, they are at increased risk for severe illness. They are at increased risk for admission to the hospital, and more particularly to critical care. And they are at increased risk for death, right? And based on what we know about the vaccine hasn't been seen to cause any adverse effects, any significant adverse effects in pregnant women, in those who became pregnant during the clinical trial, right? So if you have any intention of becoming pregnant, or if you are pregnant, I would say you always consult with your primary care physician or your doctor, right? And the vaccine should be offered to pregnant women. We know that it is safe, all right? Now, as it relates to if you would have gotten the first dose, I would always advise persons to get your second dose, even if you're pregnant, because only after the second dose you get full protection. What is the point of taking something and taking it halfway? Right? You want to do it all the way. You want full protection, yeah?
And make sure that your baby would not be at risk. So I think that's the concern there before doing it. What's the time frame between dose 1 and 2, someone is asking?
So between the dose 1 and dose 2 for AstraZeneca is 4 to 12 weeks. Right? That is the time frame. Yeah, we're giving it between 8 to 10 weeks. But that is the time frame in which the studies have been conducted. You can give it 4 to 12 weeks. But what new studies have showed, right, now the longer you delay that period between the first and the second dose, right, you get better effectiveness from the vaccine. Hence the reason we're doing it between 8 to 10 weeks, which most other countries are doing, right, between that time frame.
Now, mask, physical, social distancing. Another question lots of folks are asking, will I still have to do that even if I'm fully covered? If I've been dose 1, dose 2, dose 10, whatever it is, will we still have to wear the mask and practice social distancing?
Right, absolutely. Now, remember, the vaccine protects you, again, from severe illness, from death, from hospitalization, even from getting COVID, right? But it does not protect you from exposure. Right? Now, what protects you from exposure is wearing your mask. Somebody who is infected sneezes, right? You're wearing a mask, they're wearing a mask. That protects you from being exposed. The vaccine doesn't protect you from being exposed. It's those measures that protects you from being exposed. So yes, even if you're vaccinated, you still have to wear your mask. I still advise you to wear your mask, right? But we can relax the social distancing. If everyone is vaccinated, we can relax that. Take, for instance, Israel. Israel is one of the countries who are leading in vaccination. Over 50% of their population have been vaccinated, right? And they can make certain steps. They can relax their protocols. They can reduce the social distancing because they have reached that mark in vaccination in their population, within their population, right? So yes, right?
I think I was reading something which says Grenada is on the lowest on the list of the numbers in terms of who vaccination.
Correct. Now, within the region, Grenada is among the lowest, right, in the vaccine uptake. Now, other countries have vaccinated a significant amount of their population, right? Take, for instance, Barbados, over 60,000 persons have been vaccinated, right? Other countries are doing the same. The uptake is great. And I think one of the reasons, permit me to say this, right? Some people may disagree. If we look around at our neighbors, right, they have the variant there. Right?
And
the hospitals are filled. Well. They have community spread. People are dying. People are lying on beds. They're struggling. They can't breathe. Right? The healthcare system are burdened by cases. Right? In countries like that, the uptake is great because people are seeing the effects of COVID. People are seeing how deadly COVID is. You know, in Grenada, we have been protected. Right? To be honest. Right? We have been protected. We haven't seen how rampant this disease is. And most of us, in talking to persons, don't know somebody who had COVID. Or don't know somebody who died from COVID.
True.
Right? Now, I have colleagues who are working in the UK. One of my friends said to me yesterday, I'm just tired. Every day, hundreds of persons are dying in our hospital. You know, and if you're seeing the impact of COVID firsthand, trust me, you're getting vaccinated. I know that for a fact.
I think that's a good reason.
Right?
I think so. I really think so, too. Because Barbados, for instance, numbers are really high, you know, and hearing about a couple deaths in St. Vincent yesterday as well. So the numbers are really high. So I think that's a reason. We are more complacent because, you know, we have not been exposed that much. We have a couple, everybody have recovered. We're at 0 and, you know, 1 or 2 cases in between. So someone here is asking, if the vaccine prevents death, why worry about getting infected?
If the vaccine prevents death, why worry about getting infected? Now, I'm not sure how to answer that question, but I would say, okay, now you have to worry about getting infected, right? Because if you get infected with the virus and you're not vaccinated, one of the outcome is death, right? One of the outcome is severe illness. One of the outcome is hospitalization, right? Now, the vaccine, it prevents all of those things. But remember, you can still get infected with the virus. Remember, your body develops protection after getting your first shot 2 weeks after. And full protection, right? After your second shot, 2 weeks. So during that interim, you can still get infected with the virus. But if you do get infected, you're assured, you're 100% sure as an individual, you will not die from COVID-19. You're 100% sure as an individual, you would not be hospitalized for COVID-19, right? And you would not develop severe illness because of COVID-19. So that is in itself is a reason why you should take the vaccine. And if you have the vaccine, you don't have to worry about getting infected. Because if you have the vaccine and you get exposed to the virus, your body will deal with it right away. It tackles it right away. More than likely, you probably wouldn't even know you have COVID, right? Because you might more than likely be free of symptoms, right? And you would not require hospitalization. And more importantly, you will not die. Remember, COVID is a deadly disease.
Okay. So they're saying they meant if I'm vaccinated and won't die, why wear mask?
Remember, now I will say this, right? And persons might not have to want to hear this. Remember, we have to be selfless, right? In this whole pandemic, remember, it's a global effort. In Grenada, it takes everybody, it takes the entire community, right? So even if you're vaccinated, there are persons who are not vaccinated, and I just told you, right? During the interim, right, to develop full protection, you need at least 2 weeks after, and you can get infected with COVID. If you get infected, and let's say your friends or your colleagues you're working with, they're not vaccinated, you give them the virus, you wouldn't die from the virus. You're vaccinated. You wouldn't get hospitalized. But your friend who is not vaccinated can die, can become hospitalized. And for that reason,
I like the way you
wear your mask because you don't want to expose other people. I mean, let's be selfless here in the fight against COVID. It's not about us. It's about the people around us. It's about the community, and it's about the country as a whole, right?
Someone also is asking, okay, what about folks who have been fully vaccinated coming in from other parts of the world? Do they still have to be quarantined for the same length of time, etc.? And the PCR tests, those, do they still stand?
Right. Now, for persons who are fully vaccinated and coming into Grenada, now we are revising our protocols, and we are giving special considerations to those persons. Now, there is a possibility that very soon that persons who are fully vaccinated from COVID, their quarantine period will be reduced to 48 hours. You come in, you do your PCR test, and you wait for your results, which can take up to 48 hours. Once that comes back negative, then you do not have to quarantine for any longer, right? Because we have seen the benefits of vaccination. We see the importance of vaccination, right? But we are calling on our community, our country, right, to get vaccinated. Let's protect ourselves. Let's protect our loved ones. Let's protect our colleagues, right? And this is the way forward.
I think I got 2 more questions. I didn't realize we were running out of time so quickly. How long does it take to build immunity after getting the vaccine?
Okay, great question. Now, after your second dose, remember the Astrazeneca vaccine comes in a 2-dose regimen, right? You get your first dose, and then you take your second dose 8 to 10 weeks after. Now, 2 weeks after your second dose, you get full protection, right? You get full protection, right? Full immunity.
Now, can an individual receive the vaccine if currently infected or if they already had the virus?
Okay, now, there's 2 parts to that question, right? Can an individual receive the vaccine if they are currently infected? Now, if you are currently infected, right, you wait for you to recover before taking the vaccine. Because one thing you don't want to do, if you're infected, you can develop symptoms. Now, when you get vaccinated, you can get side effects. And those symptoms and the side effects are very similar. You wouldn't know if it's the COVID producing that or if it's the vaccine. You don't want to confuse that. Now, but after recovery, now I encourage all persons, even if you had COVID in the past, and scientists have data that proven that you should get vaccinated, because one thing we don't know, right? Now, getting COVID, you build what we call natural immunity. We don't know how long that lasts, right? So I will encourage everyone, right? Even if you had COVID before, get vaccinated. And remember, again, we have seen reports of persons who had COVID before and got reinfected, right? Either with a new variant. Now, and we know that the vaccine protects against most of the variants, right? The South African variant, the UK variant, right? So for all of these reasons, I would encourage persons, even if you were infected by COVID, get vaccinated.
Has a vaccine caused the death of anyone?
100%, it hasn't caused the death of anyone. Now, I will just break it down. In Grenada, we administered almost 10,000 vaccines. We had no reported deaths. In the region, they have administered tens of thousands of vaccines with no deaths. Throughout the world, over 300 million people have been vaccinated, and there has been no reported deaths related to the vaccine.
Now, there were some countries who had halted the vaccination process, and they've. Where are we now?
So where we now most of these countries have resumed their rollout with AstraZeneca. And the reason they halted it is because of rumors, I'm sure most of you all heard, the vaccine being associated with blood clots. Now, in the general population, right, there are certain, based on history, based on what we know as doctors, right, some persons will develop blood clots, right? And the persons who were vaccinated, in fact, that number was much less, right? And after rigorous investigation, right, they have concluded that the vaccine is not linked to any blood clots, right? And since then, those countries would have resumed their rollout with AstraZeneca vaccine. Right, I mean, I know there is a lot of
it's funny
conflict
because those things
yeah.
you see more of it, but when you have the truth or whatever it is being revealed, you don't see those being shared. No. But you're seeing a whole lot of people are dying, blood clots, countries have stopped. You saw a lot of posts sharing those, but when they reverse that, you're not seeing much. So it really confuses you. Someone here is saying, seeing the effects of COVID up front as a frontline worker will make one thing differently. The images will never go away. We need to wise up. I had my vaccines in January, and I'm glad I did.
Yes.
All right. Well, we're getting ready to wrap up, but before we go, someone here probably just joined. They're asking, we spoke about pregnant women. What about breastfeeding women?
So breastfeeding women, now, so far there is no evidence that the vaccine, right, the protection you build from the vaccine transfers into the breast milk, right? And in fact, remember, you are developing protective antibodies, what we call proteins, right? So that in itself will protect your baby, right? So there is no concern for giving the vaccines to lactating women or women who are breastfeeding. But I would always advise persons, right, always consult with your doctor, right, before you make that decision. But the vaccine should be made available to those persons if they want to take the vaccine, right? There are no concerns as it relates to that. Because remember, the vaccine, again, I will make that point, which is important. The vaccine does not contain the virus, right? And that is an important point, because I know persons have the misconception that if they get a vaccine, they're getting the virus. No, what you're getting is protection against the virus, right? And that is a very important point to reiterate here, right?
Someone says you definitely need you to make the rounds more. Very well informed. Someone is saying, well, you definitely convince them, so they'll be taking the vaccine. Well, that's a good thing. If we convince even one person, that's a good thing. Doc, any final words before we go?
No, I would like to say, I mean, again, right? It's a race, right? A race between the virus and vaccination, right? And let's come together. Let's protect ourselves. Let's protect our loved ones. And let's all get vaccinated. Imagine a Grenada where everyone who is eligible for vaccination is vaccinated. Imagine a Grenada like that.
What's the percentage now?
The percentage is about 14%, thereabout, right? For the eligible population. We need to bring that up, right? We need to achieve a greater percentage of vaccination, right? Let's do this together, right? Let's aim for everybody who is eligible to get vaccinated. Imagine a Grenada like that. We would have no need for restrictions if everybody is protected, because we know with certainty that nobody is going to go to the hospital because of COVID or any illness related to COVID. We wouldn't have any deaths related to COVID. So let's come together and let's all get vaccinated and let's fight this virus together. Let's win as a country. Let us win as a country. Let us win this battle as a country. Now, and I'd just like to inform persons that you can get vaccinated at Radisson, right, between 9 to 2 from Monday to Friday. Additionally, persons can contact their health centers to get vaccinated as well. How the vaccines come, it comes in a bottle of 10 doses, right? So we want, ideally, right, we want to have at least 10 persons before we open a bottle, because if we just open a bottle and we give one person a dose, we waste the 9 doses. And as I said, this vaccine is gold. We cannot afford to waste any doses, right? Now, so call your health center, right? Once they have a group of 10, they will call you, you go in, you get your vaccines. The vaccines are available at all health centers. For persons who are not able to leave their home, or what we call shut-ins, right? We can go to the homes. We have done it, right? So you just get in contact with us, get in contact with the health center. For business places who have large groups of persons that need vaccination, right? Call us. We can facilitate that as well. right? Because we understand having to leave work and go to get vaccinated. We understand it's a challenge, right? We will come to you because we recognize the importance. We recognize the benefits of vaccination.
I totally agree. Ministry of Health, my final word to you. This is what we had to do first because Doc doing a pretty good job of informing us. So, and I think that is what people needed from the onset, not just, okay, go get vaccinated. The information is what we were lacking, we were missing, and hearing it now being put like this, it really gives you, give you a sense of ease. And say better late than never. So hopefully we'll see some more from Dr. Charles to disseminate more information because, like we said, our numbers, we're practically, if you have to look at it, we ain't do nothing yet. So we need to up the ante. All right. So again, information, at the end of the day, it is not mandatory. You have the choice, but still it comes from a place of information, whether you decide to or not just taking things off the internet or seeing somebody post, copy and paste and using that as, concrete information when actually it's not. All right. Be well informed so you can make a well informed decision. All right. Dr. Charles, thank you so much. It was a pleasure indeed speaking to you and looking forward to having you back again to do another follow-up. And I hope from this conversation we'll have more folks getting vaccinated. All right.
Absolutely.
So thanks so much for that. And that concludes our program this morning. Yes, we went overboard, but it was necessary. Lots of information being disseminated. And remember, guys, you can definitely check out the Ministry of Health's Facebook page, etc., to get more information, all right, as it comes to hand. So catch us again next week, right here, same time, same place. Compliments our friends at Beacon Insurance and Western Union for another Ladies' Room. Have a good Thursday, y'all.